Welcome everyone to Elevation Call. This is a special Elevation Easter Sunday call. And if there's ever a time for an Elevation call, it's on Easter Sunday. And for many of us, this is really kind of an outgrowth of our faith, just our response to pay forward the blessings that we're given. And I know it's also a family holiday. So thank you guys for taking a break and joining us for this call, which you can find recorded on Team Unlimited on YouTube. So refer to that if you want to share this with your team, or if you're hearing this upon recording. You missed the call. So I'm going to have Hal really quickly recap the top leaderboard, both the enrollment leaderboard and the volume leaderboard, and then we're going to get started. We have a very special training for you guys tonight.
All right, so it is the 17th of April, and we're about halfway through the month. And we always pull up, as you know, the updated as of this afternoon leaderboard for Zalise, overall a global leaderboard for two things. And we recognize that for people on our team. And one is the enrollment leaderboard, and then the other is personal volume leaderboard, which usually translates into, not in all cases, but usually means these are people who have some sort of retail direction or opportunity within their personal business model. So enrollments this month on the leaderboard so far, we have at number 25 out of Tennessee, Sue Schofield. So congratulations, Sue. And then at 23 is Becky Demaro out of Colorado. Congratulations, Becky. And then some people that are familiar on a regular basis with our leaderboard at number 6, Steve and Jenny Todd out of Florida. And I just want to make a comment about them. What we know is they got on that leaderboard, at least in part, by working really hard through a lot of challenges in opening up Sweden. So they enrolled a founder. So a founder is a very unique person in the world of Zalise, but they enrolled a founder in Sweden. So that's a really cool thing. A lot of work there. I'll tell you what, you got to be tenacious and courageous and patient and persevering to help people open up a country in any business. But, you know, they've done that. Congratulations to them. And then at number 3 on the leaderboard right now is none other than Lisa Bell Henson.
And Hal.
And me. Yeah, Hal and Lisa Henson. So we're there, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But then over on the PV board, or the personal volume board, we have Rebecca Pasternak at number 13, at number 11, Phyllis Crabtree, and number 2, she's hanging in there tough, Susan Welch at the top of the leaderboard. I think she must buy her product first of the month that she moves through her dental practice. Plus, you know, they got a few kids on product too, so I don't know if that's where that's going. But anyway, congratulations, Susan, for being number 2 on the personal volume leaderboard. So that's it for that.
Well, and so we've got some special training. One of the trainings we're going to have Hal start with, and he's going to kind of set up another one of our guest presenters. And in fact, we use that kind of as a carrot to get you guys on this call tonight. But one of the things I love about this business platform, and it's a platform unlike any other, is the potential for self-development. You know, we say that we help people with their health, we help people with their financial power, but it's not about the financial power, it's the person that you become in the process of that. And so Hal was talking to me this week about some thoughts he had on the hats we wear and kind of the definitions of leadership. And I'm going to just pull up something. I'm going to share my screen with you guys and have Hal kind of give us some basic definitions about what hat that you are wearing today.
All right. So thank you, Lisa. We're going to do, so tonight's going to be kind of some perspective. I think this first part is self-reflection. My challenge to you, my ask of you on this call is to not just take notes and learn this, but this is an opportunity for you to do some self-reflection on which hats are you wearing today in relation to your Zalise business and your part, or where you are, how you see yourself today, and where you might want to, where you want to be or might want to be moving forward. And so a lot of this actual thought tonight came out of me working with my writing coach this week based upon some previous writing that I've done. So Lisa and I both are writing different books in different ways. Maybe some of you have known that. And so these are projects for us, and I've hired kind of a coach for me to help me process all of this. She started out as an editor, so that was the hat she was wearing. And then she's turned in more into a thought generator for me. So as a second hat she wears, but even also a mentor to me in writing. So those are three hats that my writing coach has worn. And so in that conversation with her this week, I began to think about the difference between a leader and a mentor. And it had to do with some writing that I did about people I've seen as mentors, and maybe they were more of a leader than a mentor, or people and so she helped me kind of talk about that. And what I realized that she has really been a mentor to me, which I have appreciated over the last year. And I told her that. And so after that, then just as I kind of continued to think about that, I took more notes on it and just began to think about it. And then I started thinking about it in terms of Zalise. And not just Zalise like corporate, but our life in Zalise, what we do together on these calls, you, me, Lisa, the people we're in relationship with, our team, different people. And so throughout this week, I kind of came up with some ideas that I wanted to share with you for you to consider on the differences of these and what hats that you have worn and might continue to wear. So I asked Lisa to put a little slide together, and these are the things we're going to talk about: leader, mentor, sponsor, advocate, enroller, and consumer. So here's how for tonight, and this is not a limited conversation, it's just a concept that I want you to think about. So when we think about Zalise, it's really obvious who the leader of Zalise is. Okay, who is that? Somebody help me. Somebody unmute and tell me who the leader of Zalise is.
Stephen Thompson.
Very good. Founder, CEO. He's the upfront leader of the company, and that's his role. Now, what we know also is that Stephen takes on the role of mentor, and in different ways, but his primary role as mentor has been that Stephen built years ago a direct marketing, a multi-level marketing, large, massive income through hard work and doing what it takes for him to build his business. And he often talks about that. And so he had mentors, and now today, many times he offers us his mentorship on what he did. So he's an experienced mentor in how to build multi-level marketing business. What it takes to be successful financially is his main focus. Okay, his main focus is in mentorship has been how to be successful financially in a multi-level marketing. What you have to do, like the 90-day game plan, the number of presentations, the follow-up, how to calendar yourself. He mentors on that very specifically, but then he also suggests resources. Like I think last week on the Freedom Call, Stephen talked about what's the guy's name he talked about? One of his mentors. Oh, the guru. Anyway, you don't recall?
I
We
know,
heard about it.
obviously.
We heard it 3
Oh,
times.
gosh. Oh, yeah.
What's his name? Doesn't matter.
John Maxwell.
John Maxwell.
Yeah.
That's right. John Maxwell. So he gave us resources, and Stephen often gives us, that's what a mentor does. They'll give you resources. Oftentimes when we're mentoring you on this call, we reference like Tim Sales. We always recommend, hey, go to YouTube and take in some of Tim Sales' work, or we'll recommend a book. Stephen often does that. That's a part of mentoring. It's helping you move from point A to point B. There is some sort of personal relationship, and oftentimes a mentor is a one-on-one, but a lot of times, like on this call, we do some mentoring on this call to the group. All right, so a leader is leading a large organization. We believe our position with Team Unlimited that Lisa created several years ago, we're leading this group, this team, but we also mentor. All right, sponsor. So oftentimes we have used the word sponsor, but tonight and going forward, I want us to think about this word sponsor very differently. And I'm going to return to this idea of sponsor in a minute. Many times we think of sponsoring people into the business when we enroll them, help them become a wholesale customer, and then if they want to build the business, we've sponsored them into a position on our team. And that's kind of how we have talked about that for the most part. But that's, to me, what I've come to realize is that's a very limited view of what a sponsor really is in business. And I'm going to return to that because a sponsor is truly not so much the leader, though you might wear that hat from time to time, not so much a mentor with your experience, your resources and so forth. But a sponsor is someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself, who says, I believe in you so much that I'm going to invest in you my personal time, my personal energy. I'm going to spend time with you either on the phone, face to face, because I believe that you have within you the ability to achieve greater things that you desire to achieve. We're going to have an even exchange here. I'm going to give to you of my time, and I'm going to make recommendations to you. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to be follow up directly with you. I'm going to ask you the tough questions. I believe in you. I'm going to sponsor you. And what the response of the sponsee, you might say, is I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to come to you when I have questions. When I run up against a wall, I'm going to ask you how I can overcome that to move forward. So again, in the past, we basically have thought of the sponsor as the one who enrolls someone, but we have another name for that here in a minute. We'll show you. So we have the leader, we have the mentor, we have the sponsor, and I unpacked that a little bit, but I'm going to finish there in a minute. So we're going to come back to it. So kind of moving toward, kind of, I want to say downward. Or you have a question or input? No. Is we are also advocates. So what do I mean by that? So you're advocating for yourself. You're a person who is advocating for your own financial future. You're a person who's advocating for your own health. You're making some decisions. Maybe you're talking to your doctor, your medical provider. In some cases, you're advocating with your spouse or significant other about where you spend your money. You have to advocate for yourself to say, I believe in this business, or I believe in these products so much that I'm willing and I'm asking you, my partner, or someone in your life to join you in that belief. And you have to advocate for yourself. And I will tell you that sometimes in business, you say, we've spent money on this, we're using the products, but the balance sheet is still in the red. And we have to make a decision that we're going to advocate for a continuing or to do something different. Or let's say, and I have this many times, like we have a potential customer in our life as of this weekend here in Northwest Arkansas, a friend from high school and so forth, who has a pet that has seizures. And so on Facebook, I just noticed that was there. And so I sent a message. Her response to me was, well, we're going back to the vet tomorrow. But I got to check with the vet first before I can allow my dog to use CBD. And what I said was, well, you have no way to advocate for that. You want to do it, but you have no way to advocate for yourself and your pet to even get the vet's approval of the idea. So let me send you some information that you might use. Okay, she's not even a user of our products, but she is in a position where before she's even a consumer of the product, before she's even enrolling at all in the business or even as a wholesale customer, she is personally in a position to advocate for herself and her dog with a veterinarian. Okay, so sometimes that's what we do. We're advocating. That's a hat we wear. Sometimes we literally have to advocate with our family, and there are people that we deal with this a lot. Your family doesn't want you to do this business. Maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your children or your parents or someone in your family. And you have to advocate and say, I believe in this project. I believe in it. I want to do it. I'm going to keep doing it. So you kind of have to wear the hat of advocating for yourself with the important people in your life. You also, as an advocate, you're always in the role of advocating for an opportunity for other people. You know, sometimes we would call this an ambassador, and we intentionally took the word ambassador out of this overview, because really what we're describing here tonight are Zalise ambassadors, but that's kind of like a penny. It's gotten worn out, guys. You know, you got to know what ambassador means, and it's different hats. So we intentionally, I had ambassador in the list, and Lisa said, you know, that's redundant. It's like the word itself has lost its value because it's been used so much. So the advocate is kind of taking the place of, if you have a message, you have a story of the results of the product or the opportunity or the relationships or people owning their own business and doing it with health products, you advocate that message to other people. So advocating. All right. So once you've done that and someone says, yes, I want to use the products, I want to buy them at wholesale, then you become an enroller. You enroll people at wholesale. Someone says, I want to partner with you. I want to build business. Which product kit is the best for me? So you enroll them, and it's that's just a part of it. That's what you do. Okay. So you wear the hat of the enroller. And then some people, many people, if they're not enrolling, if they're not advocating, if they're not pouring themselves into other people, maybe that they've brought into the business and enrolled, or they're not mentoring others, if they're not enrolling people, if they're not advocating, then they're a consumer. And that could be the hat that a person wears most of the time. I'm consuming the product. So everyone is at least a consumer. If you're on this call, you're at least a consumer. And this is where the hat that you're wearing, I want you to consider and do some self-evaluation. Over the last 3 months, 6 months, year, whatever period of time, even over the last week, which hat did you wear the most? Were you a mentor to other people in the business? Were you an advocator of the opportunity? Were you an enroller? Or were you a consumer? And I would say that for most of us, based upon the evidence of the leaderboard and just the numbers in total, that most people are consumers, and we love consumers. But consumers are spenders of money. They're not earners of money. And the people that are on this call are here not to be better consumers. How many of you are on this call to be a better consumer? Raise your hand. I can see a lot of you. How many of you are just on it to be a better consumer? I don't see any hands going up. How many of you are on this call to be a better enroller? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. So now see, so how many of you are on this call to be a better advocate? Okay. So now you see that you're on here for a purpose, and it's not just to be a consumer. It's to be an enroller, an advocate, a sponsor. So here's what I want to emphasize tonight, and that is, I want us to look at this word sponsorship. And I'm going to ask you all that are on here and that hear this message in the future to think about the role of being a sponsor. And you see on this list really where it lies in the list of hierarchy, you might say. And it's pretty high on the list. And so what I want you to consider is this. If you have had someone in your leadership team that has poured into you, has invested their time with you to help you understand what's the best, how to be a good consumer for yourself, right? What's the best products for you, and to help answer those questions, give you direction. Someone has spent time with you and energy with you to help you discover that. And hopefully it's been beneficial, probably has, or you wouldn't be on the call, or maybe your family members. So probably someone has helped you. If you've enrolled anybody, someone on this call has really helped you, or someone in your sponsorship tree or your enrollment tree or in your leadership team, upline is kind of MLM term, has helped you enroll people through the process, or help you get people enrolled, or help them get to the point of enrollment. And they've sponsored you, they've helped you, they've believed in you and helped you do that. Also, people on this call have helped you advocate for yourself, maybe with a spouse, or helped you with a three-way phone call. Like you've been talking to someone and it's now time to get a third-party voice or someone who can help you move that person along or answer their questions, helped you advocate the opportunity for those people. And so if that's the case, that's what's happened for you. All right, sponsorship. And this is the point where I'm going to stop tonight and really have everyone think. Have you had people or a person, could be just one, could be multiple, who has believed in you more than you've believed in yourself? And they have invested their time, their energy, their voice, their emotions with you, their thoughts, their energy, part of their day. You're on their calendar once, twice, 10 times weekly, whatever it is. That person has believed in you and helped you rise in your personal belief, maybe helped you rise in your rank, has elevated you. And in some ways they have led you, in some ways they have mentored you, in some ways they have helped advocate for you. They've done the nitty gritty, like helping you enroll someone, helping you bring someone as a customer, but they have poured themselves into you to make your work more effective for your business. I think most of you would say that you have had at least one person, or maybe multiple, who has done that for you. Now, here is the question. Where are you in your commitment to be that for someone else? And not just one, but many people. Because in order to build this business, you can't just be a consumer. Number two, you can't just enroll people, get your 4 on your 4x4 enrolled, and not really invest in those people's lives, like in really helping them. Sponsoring them means giving of yourself, of your time, and making yourself available. And so the difference between a leader is they lead groups. Typically, a mentor does individual and group, but a sponsor gets in the ruts with the people in the ruts. They get in the ditches with the people in the ditches. They get on the mountaintops with those that are on the mountaintops. They get into the heart and soul of the person, the mind, together, and tries to figure out how to help that person move beyond where they are up to a higher level of self-belief, accomplishment, achievement. And so as we in this group go forward and we talk about sponsorship, if it's not a commitment to help people build themselves and to grow, then we're really talking about an enroller, okay? Or maybe an advocate. But when we talk about sponsorship in this group, we're talking about really helping people. And some of you say, well, I don't have anything to offer. I learned this a long time ago. If you have even the smallest bit of experience, hope, belief that another person doesn't have, it's your responsibility to share that with people who don't have the level of experience that you have, the level of hope you have, the level of belief you have. So you don't have to make the biggest money. You don't have to have the biggest belief. You don't have to have the most experience to begin being a sponsor of the people in your world who are either just beginning, who are struggling, who haven't learned what you've learned as a result of someone else pouring it into you. And so our ask of you is to really do some self-evaluation of your mindset and where you are. And being a consumer is fine. It's 100% fine. Being an enroller is fine. Being an advocate is fine. Being a sponsor is fine. Being a mentor is fine. But if you want to build a business, you got to be all of these hats. If you want to build it significantly and be life-changing income for yourself and other people, every single one of these hats you have to wear. I don't think, and I'm going to finish with this. I hope I hadn't
No, you're good.
preached on and on here, but so I think everyone would agree that Lisa, and I'm going to say her, is a tremendous leader. She's a tremendous mentor. Some of you would say she has sponsored me. She's poured into me. When I've asked for it, she has given it to me. She's been an advocate for herself and for others. She certainly has been an enroller. And believe me, we consume products, which is awesome. Love it. I'm now taking ice every night before I go to bed. I didn't know I could do that. Well, I knew I could, but I didn't know I needed it. It's changing my life taking ice. But here's the point. You'll notice on the leaderboard, even though Lisa's a leader, a mentor, and a sponsor, who's on the leaderboard? Lisa and Hal. We're still enrolling people, but that's not all we do. And so for people in the business to grow and mature, they got to wear all the hats and learn how to wear those hats. But tonight, the emphasis is on really understanding that you move from being an enroller to being a sponsor, really sponsoring people that you enroll in your business. And I think that you'll find that if that's your mindset, that you will attract people who want to grow rather than just enroll. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lisa because she's going to introduce someone that I have seen with my own eyes and myself, the two of us, Lisa, but especially Lisa, has been a leader to, a mentor to, but definitely a sponsor to, because I've been a part of that, but it's been mostly Lisa, as well as an advocate for. And as a result of that, now this person who's going to share with us tonight has become a leader in her area of the country. She's become a greater advocate for herself and others. She's becoming a sponsor in the sense of really helping and teaching others, but desiring to pour into other people what's been poured into her. And she's going to give a little bit of that tonight to you. So
Thank you, Hal. It's really a helpful way to look at this business and the roles that we play, but also just to visualize yourself as that sponsor, as that mentor, as that leader. Something that I really had not, just in nursing, had not really learned how to become. So I also wanted to just talk a little bit about Susan Everett, because Susan, by popular demand, she did an amazing training for us in Evansville at our regional Phoenix Summit. And people were like, hey, Susan, I didn't get to hear it. I would love to hear it. So we asked her if she would, on Easter Sunday, be willing to share a little bit more, just a little brief overview. But just to kind of give you the background, Susan, when I met her, she was already a very accomplished leader in the corporate world. And one of the things that I just really admire about Susan is that even though she'd had success in one sphere, she started as a consumer with Celise, and really based on her own, consumer experience, really became an advocate from there. And then from an advocate, she became an enroller. And from that role, she has really become a sponsor. And she really, she has taken a leadership role in the Evansville team. And she and Mary Ellen on different parts of the team have really teamed up together to bring a training event on this Tuesday to the Evansville team that they completely decided to do on their own. And one of the things that have come out of our weekly sponsoring sessions is I told Susan, I'm like, Susan, I really highly recommend that you learn how to do networking. And I never would have dreamed that she had just like she does, she runs into the dark. She's got so much courage. She not only did it, but she has become an expert in it. And so with no further ado, Susan, I want you to unmute and share with us some of your spoon feeding on what networking is and how it's benefited your business with Celise.
Wow, thank you. I was wondering who you were going to talk about. I was waiting for you to introduce somebody because I don't feel like I deserve any of the accolades you just gave me, and because there are so many very impressive people on this call. Do you want to share in my screen, or how do you want to do this?
So I can switch over if you want to, Susan. I can make you host if you want, just at one moment here. So let's see, I'm making you host and you can use your screen. Okay, there you go.
Okay. So how do I do that? Oh, I share my screen now. Okay. Okay, I just pulled a couple of slides out of this presentation, so I'm not going to do the whole thing, but we'll just talk through it a little bit. So Lisa's right. I guess I should do this as a presentation, I think. Maybe that's, I don't know, it looks different. There we go. Lisa's right. She threw me into the middle of networking and introduced me to a group, got me started on that. And little did you know, that was not the easiest group to get into. And so I learned by fire, trust me. But anyway, I love this $1 Million Networking. Andrea Nierenberg is somebody that I know and I respect a lot. And she's like the queen of networking. And one of the things she says is it's about giving first and realizing that we can learn from everyone we meet. That's true in life as far as I'm concerned. I used to joke about when I traveled for a living, as soon as they said your flight's delayed for an hour, I thought, cool, wonder who I'm going to meet. And I started looking around for somebody to talk to. So networking comes natural to me. I love it. But that doesn't mean that it's easy. It's still very, very hard to do. And by the way, if you're ever interested, we want to look it up. $1 Million Networking is the name of one of Andrea's books, and it has lots of the detail stuff in it that I'm not going to go through tonight. But the first thing, I'm not doing some presentation mode. That's okay. The first thing that you have to do is to get into a networking group. And, you know, as I said, Lisa introduced me to one, so that's great. But how do you find one? Just ask friends. You start talking around, asking people you know, you'll come up with one. I was amazed at how many zillions of networking groups there are in Evansville. Ask other business people you know. The easy thing, you Google everything today, right? So just Google networking groups in, you know, whatever your area is. And then once you get into one group, then you start asking those people, or you start hearing them talk about other groups that they're in. And then you can say, hey, is that a closed group? Can I get invited to it? So once you get involved in one group, you can expand your range of people that you get experience with very easily. But really the thing to keep in mind is that all groups are networking groups. I mean, when you're at church, I don't know how big your church is, but if you don't know everybody in your church, well, then it's a networking group because you have an opportunity to talk and to meet somebody new. Because remember, networking is about relationships. It's about understanding and knowing people and seeing how you can help them. Because if you go back to the quote I did just a minute ago, oops, wrong way. If you go back to the quote, it's about giving first and realizing that we can learn from everybody we meet. So that's really what you want to focus on. This is not working right. I'm sorry, but because I'm going to skip. There we go. Okay. I did want to say just a little bit about preparing in advance. And really, if you go back to February 20th elevation call, Kristen Olander did a talk about cold calling. It's really the same thing. I thought her talk was really great because you do the same thing. You know, she researched groups before or businesses before she goes in. If you can, you research the groups that you go to, research the members of the group if you can. But this is really what I want to get to is develop and practice opening line questions. Because if you're going to meet people, you can't just start spitting up on them about Zalise. You have to have questions that you can ask like, hey, I'm new here. Can you tell me about the group? I mean, just obvious things like that you would do, you know, or maybe you're not the new person. You've been there a couple of times before and somebody else is new. Well, then you're welcoming again, just like you would at church. You know, things like, and it doesn't always have to be about business things. You can say, I really love your earrings, or I love that jacket you have on. Where'd you get that? So there's anything you can just to get somebody at ease and get them talking to you. And then really after that, you always also kind of practice get to know you questions, because some networking groups are more just wide open. They're more like cocktail parties without the booze. And so if you're just walking around talking to people at a networking event, well, then you not only need to, be able to get into a conversation, but then also have questions to go on afterwards. And the more you know things to talk about and ask, then the less you have to ask, the less you have to think about it when you're in the group. And one thing that really helps too is, like Hal's especially always preaching, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, so that people are talking to you. Well, the more you're comfortable with questions, then the more you can focus on what they're saying, and you're not having to think about what's the next question I'm going to ask. I did want to talk about introductions just a little bit, because that's really what it's all about. How do you want to be remembered? What do you don't just want them to remember you for the clothes you bought at some fancy store. You want them to remember about you, your personality, that they felt comfortable around you, that you felt like they felt like somebody that you that would be, that they would trust. So if you connect with somebody, then they trust you. What's the benefit that will stand out in someone's mind? What makes you unique? Everybody loves a story. So, people in this group talk about it all the time. The more you can tell a story about either this lease company. So if you're talking to somebody that you're thinking of as a business builder, I always tell them stories about the company, like how it was founded, or the pay it forward attitude. That's a big deal to me. Especially by this stage in my life, I've worked with a really, I can't think of a Easter Sunday eligible word to call one of the companies I've worked for. So I've worked for those kind of companies before. I want to make sure I'm working for a very ethical company now, and somebody to pay it forward is a big deal to me. So, I tell things like that to people. Create your brand. You have to kind of have your own, who you are, not only as the company, but also as yourself. And then really, I know I'm kind of jumping through this quick, but there's lots of things that you can talk about as far as, or if I was doing a real long training session, I would do a lot of talking about, just how you do speaking, but that's speaking, how you face people and pay attention to them and stuff. And do a lot of things about just the nitty gritties of what you take with you and stuff. But I don't want to get into that kind of detail tonight. I really wanted to keep it a little bit higher level and just talk about, this was something that I had to really get outside my comfort zone. Even though I said I like to talk to people, it's different to be kind of forced. Not that Lisa forced me, but if Lisa's ever asked you to do anything and you've said no, tell me how you do that, because I'm not sure I know how. So if you, when you go into a networking group, you're like the odd man out, so you feel like everybody else knows each other, and maybe they do. And so to step into that, it kind of, throws you back into the feeling of, junior prom or something like that, when you didn't have a date. And so you're there trying to make friends. So it's really a step out of your comfort zone. But once you do it, it gets more comfortable and a little bit easier to do. I've met a lot of people, and then those people have introduced me to other people. And like I said, the first group that Lisa introduced me to, there was a couple of ladies in that group that kind of leaned over to me one day and they say, hey, we got another group we think you'd really fit better in. And so they've introduced me to, I think there's like 100 people in this networking group. I never see them all at the same time, but what a huge blessing was that. And then the one thing I want to say really is that it takes time. Oh, wait a minute. On the speaking, make sure that you have your elevator speech. I think that may be on here. Yeah, make sure you have a 30-second version, because sometimes in networking, you introduce yourself and you have just a 30-second way to do it. And then other times you have a 1 to 2 minute version. So sometimes I just try to have a catchy phrase. One I've been using lately is hemp heels, ask me how. And it always gets a chuckle from people, and then they remember you. And but then if I have a 1 to 2 minute version, I always tell a story about somebody who it made a really big difference in their life, whether it was financial or health wise, because people remember stories. Pay attention to everyone else. I learned so much when I was first, started out in networking, just by listening to everybody else's introduction. and I've really grown to appreciate people, how quickly they learn things, and that's where I got the best thing. And then, oh, I didn't mean to do that one. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that one either. Okay, so the last thing I want to tell you is networking is all about establishing relationships and building trust instead of trying to make a quick sale. Because if you just go into networking group and the first thing you're doing is just pushing your product on people, then they do not have any respect for it. They will turn you off very quickly. And one thing about that is I noticed, like, I think the story I told when we did I don't do well presenting through Zoom, apparently. So anyway, let me get back to this. So as far as relationships are concerned, I think the story I told when we did the training here was that I had been in this one networking group for like almost a year. And after we did the introductions, we had some open time. She came like running up to me and she said, "Hey, I was talking to my husband and realized that he's been having trouble sleeping. So he's gone on the internet and he's ordering some CBD products and doing this stuff." And she goes, "I just told him, hey, I got a lady, and if we're going to buy CBD products, we're buying it from this lady." I mean, and she's never even talked to me about the product before, but that just shows you it's been almost a year of developing that relationship. But she bought product from me a couple of weeks ago. And when I saw her this past week, she said, "Let's get together. I think I want to enroll." So that's how long it took.
I didn't know that.
That's
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Ooh.
That's the new part of the story.
I have to leave something for you.
Awesome, Susan. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Just I know that you have really been consistent. You've been patient. This has been a once or twice a week thing for you. And I'm just impressed.
Well, and what I want to say too about the Susan she's taking on a new hat in the Evansville area, fairly new. Her and Mary Ellen, she's teaming up with Mary Ellen. They're actually going to do a training together, I think this coming Tuesday night, as leaders in that region, which that's a new hat. But Susan all along, well, not all along, but definitely for the last year and a half to 2 years, she's taken on the role of sponse-e. She has come, and that's a really key term, and probably should have put that sponse-e term, because Susan didn't know the language to use. And she asked Lisa for help. Lisa was her sponsor. Lisa took the time to pour into her. I can remember us, just for example, on that elevator speech, Susan had a good one. She ran it by us. We listened to it and we said, "That is great." We encouraged her, and it was, but it needed some tweaking. It needed some perspective. And she was open to being directed, challenged. And she then took the assignments and fulfilled those assignments or suggestions. And so that is so you can't be a leader unless you're willing to be led. You can't be a mentor unless you're willing to be mentored. You can't be a sponsor unless you're willing to be sponsored. You never could enroll anyone until you got enrolled yourself, right?
Right.
So all of these requires being that recipient of that, being led, being mentored, being sponsored before you become it. But again, Susan has had the desire not to necessarily be a leader. She's become that. I don't know that she necessarily desired to be a mentor, even though she is becoming that in this field. I don't know that she has even thought about the sponsor-sponsee relationship, but she certainly has been a sponsee, and a number of you have. So she's a great example of that. And so the teaching tonight, which we had asked her to do previous to my teaching, really fits together to show you what it kind of looks like, but also the very practical that Susan's given us. So
thank you so much, Susan. Any last comments, Susan?
Well, yeah, just to say that, really, even like I mentioned in this call, I picked up things that Kristen talked about that helped me doing what I'm doing. And certainly the Todds, every time they talk, if you don't listen when they talk, you're nuts, because they have such great information to give you. And I learned from everybody on here, Susan and Brian Welch. It's like everybody on this screen tonight has information that you can learn from. And that's, it's just become a sponge, and that's what I try to do, and everything that you tell me to do.
Well, you are a great role model and example, Susan, and it's just a delight to see you flourish and bring people with you. And really what I love just about our role kind of as leaders of Team Unlimited is just what you mentioned, is that once you create a team of like-minded people who have different skill sets and different strengths, you can bring them together in a mastermind group kind of like this.
And all of you, like Susan just said, I mean, I could give multiple illustrations and examples of other people tonight, but we all have benefited from people at times mentoring what you've learned or leading. I'll never forget in Dallas that Brian Welch didn't hardly say anything the whole time he was there. But what he said was the words of a leader, a clarifier, like solid, strong. And we still, a lot of what we're teaching is coming out of the few minutes that Brian spoke as a perceptive leader. So I'm just giving that example. Kristen, another example, she mentored all of us, but I also know that she takes sponseeship. She's a person who said, I want help. I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn. Her and Eric both. So we all wear different hats. But I would challenge all of us to consider that it may be time right now for you to really focus on what it means to be both a sponsee and sponsor. Allow someone to pour more into you so that you can pour into others. That's really, I think, the heart of where Zalise is as a whole right now. Those that are willing to be taught, mentored, sponseed are going to build their business by being able to sponsor, mentor, and lead others. And it's greatly needed.
Absolutely. And so 2 more little mini announcements. I want to just talk about Summerfest and how I was going to have you just give the announcement on June 4th, Summerfest.
Okay. So June 4th is a corporate sponsored event. Summerfest, it's $49. How do I say this, guys? I know gas is expensive. I know that hotels are going up in price. But if you look at this as a business and you don't at least as of today have June the 4th, it's a one-day event, Indianapolis, on your calendar, and you are like really seriously looking at going, or at least, talking to us and say, how can I get there? I want you to put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar. It's 7 weeks away. And we're asking every person on this call, no matter where you live, to do everything you can to get to that event. We're hoping that you'll get there in time to have a Friday night meeting with us. Okay, if you're area and above, you've already been invited to be at the summit on the day before. But here's the thing. I do believe what Stephen said on Monday night in the Freedom Call. He said, for every person that attends on your team, a live corporate sponsored national event, it is worth to you, you may not see it immediately, but in the days and weeks and months ahead, worth 1,000 BV. So if you want to hit city ambassador, you need to be there, and you need to have at least a couple of other people there, because 3 people there represents 3,000 BV for your business, which is city level. 10 people there represents area. Area is the Jeep bonus. So for those who are really striving to hit Jeep, you need to do everything you can to get the people on your team now and adding people to be at that event. Hey, you may not think there's any chance in the world that you can get there, that you can have that number of people, but if you don't set that goal and make your own personal commitment to be there, number one, you won't be there, and they definitely won't be there. So it's not the only way, but it's a huge part of that. We just got word today from, speaking of leaders, from the Welches coming up from Florida. They've made a commitment to be there. And so they're going to be there. Now, so that's that part. Okay. And there's with a number of you have already signed up, but we want you, if you're going, get your tickets tonight. We need our team that's going to go ahead and get your tickets. There's a reason for that. We want to meet with you on Friday night. The only way we're going to be able to get a room, like a potential room where we can gather as a team, is that if we have enough people there. Now, that doesn't matter to us as much as it does to you. Okay. I mean, we want to see you, but it's not about seeing you. We think that we have value add. Like some of the things we're going to talk about in that room on Friday night as our team is going to be a value add to your entire experience, but not so much the experience, but in building your business going forward. Literally since the summit in Dallas and the few weeks leading up to that, there have been significant changes for the better within Zalise, and even in how we're approaching it with you. And I think it's 7 weeks from now, by the time we are there in Indy as a group, what we have to give to you, as well as what's given on the next day with the product launch and what they do in corporate. This is team stuff. This is field stuff on Friday night. We think it'll be a value add and worth you being there. There will not be a Zoom presentation. That event is live only in person. And that's how it was before the pandemic. And Steven sounds like he's 100% committed to that being. So if you're going to get it, you got to be there. And we're really hoping to not just see all of you there, but we want to be together for that time on Friday night. And it's not going to be just a hug fest. We are going, we're going to be there with guns loaded, ready to go to help you build your business. We want to help you blow up the next few months. And here's why. When we come out of Summerfest, we'll have June, July, and August, which have been good months to build momentum historically in Zalise. In all multi-level, but especially in Zalise. Historically, the highest number of ranking people hitting rank, building BV, earning income happens in September, October, historically in Zalise. The only way that happens is you begin in the months prior to that, building momentum, working cohesively over a period of time to make that happen. And so if you say no to the event in June, for whatever reason, you're not getting that jump start that I think everyone is going to need. Now, not that we're waiting for that, but I really think it's our hope and our prayer is that will be a launching pad into really moving things forward. That's our commitment. That's our focus.
And there also will be a product launch. So there's a new product being
There will
launched
be
there.
a product launch. Yes. And that's really always important. However, at the same time, it's what we do together. It's the energy of being together that is even, I think, more important than even the product launch.
Absolutely. The other aspect is just who do you know that lives in Indiana and the Indianapolis area,
or Illinois,
or anywhere that's driving
Michigan.
distance. Really, yeah, Michigan. There's the geographic advantage, obviously, for people who live in Indiana, and a good amount of our team is based in Indiana. So definitely this is an opportunity for us to be able to create some momentum in that region. The other thing I wanted to mention is just we have recorded a short presentation on Team Unlimited YouTube.
That we did Wednesday night.
It was actually Hal that did that. He had it was very strong on the fact that we really need to shorten the presentation. We really need to create a first conversation. Why don't you just mention that briefly?
Yeah, so it's in the YouTube Team Unlimited Live that I recorded Wednesday night, did a presentation, I've had good feedback on. But the idea is we just want to give you more of a set of slides that you can make your own that's much shorter. The goal for me was to make 3 points, which I feel like I did, 3 points in the presentation. My goal was to have 6 to 9 slides, including the beginning slide and the end slide. So that's it, total of 9 slides. And then to do it, in about 9 minutes, the actual meat of the presentation. And I think the total from the time Lisa glowingly introduced me for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to the time we said goodbye was 17 minutes total. And so I think it's a good model for all of us to use. I also think it's good to be something for you to share with others if you wanted to use it, but I did not prepare it for you to just share it. I prepared it for you to feel like you can have more mastery, more usability of the basics of homeostasis and balance with a simple focus on CBD and CBG and the options that are there. We didn't get into all the other products that are wonderful. We didn't get into a lot of the details. We don't even make a presentation of how to buy. The whole point is to get an introduction. And at the end, our ask is for the person who is the guest to set up for a personal health consultation with yourself or with your mentor, your helper, your upline, your support team, your sponsor, your enroller, the person who can help you have that conversation with them. So watch that if you haven't seen it, understand it, and then realize it's a usable tool. So
And I am more than happy to pass on the PowerPoint for that. I have it on my phone. You can print it out. You can do it old school hard copy, but it's great first conversation. And we're going to talk more about this in June at Summerfest.
and along the way,
And along
we've
the
got
way,
7
obviously.
weeks before we see people in that place.
And then lastly, before we stop the recording, I wanted to shout out to Rebecca Watson. She has been working diligently. She's one of our newer ambassadors, but she was able to facilitate a conversation with one of the most high-level health professionals that we've spoken to in a while. And it was complicated because it was her mother. And if you guys have ever tried to talk to a family member about Zalise, sometimes that is the hardest conversation to have. Her mom wasn't just thrilled about it, but Rebecca was very persistent. She was strong about it and gracious.
She advocated.
And so we were able to do that this weekend. I thought it went wonderfully. And so it's very, very interesting. Her mother, who's a high-level health professional, said that her patients had told her about Glow. And so she had already heard of it, but read the white paper, appreciated the white paper. And I'm just really proud of Rebecca because I believe her mom's going to be joining our team now. So I'm going to stop the recording here and just pause for a minute. Let's see here. Susan, can you make me, oh, here we go. I got it. I'm reclaiming my host. There we go.